So hello everyone, welcome back to our Friday Yellow Cow Chat session. This is a space where we get to meet different people and we get to discuss about various issues that we encounter in our everyday lives. It could be in our areas of work or just simply in the communities we live. Well, on the couch today, I am joined by Ms. Hilda Tzeba. She is a lecturer and CEO and founder of a mental health organization called Guided Path Tanzania. She's also a mover in the movement platform on our website, where she has created a series called Stigma Free Zone. And in this series, she writes articles that are raising awareness on different mental health issues that impact our daily lives. Hilda, karibu sana.
Asante.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
I know you'll have a lot to share with us on self-esteem because being a person who is passionate about mental health, this is an area that touches our mental health in a great way. So so self-esteem would be covered there. So in today, of course, I'll be hosting you, Nancy Bogor. I always forget to introduce myself, but as you all know me, my name is Nancy Bogor, Senior Coordinator, Engagement and Empower. And like I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about how self-esteem affects productivity. In here, we're going to look at what self-esteem is, how does one acquire self-esteem, signs of low and healthy self-esteem, and the impact on productivity. So how does self-esteem, having a low self-esteem or a healthy self-esteem, or is there such a thing as having too high self-esteem that can be, in turn, that can affect you in a negative way? So we're going to look at those questions and those areas with Hilda here. And hopefully you will have a lot to gain and learn from this session. And please, if you have questions, please drop them on the comment section and I will be happy to take them, and me and Hilda will do our very best to answer to all of them. So Hilda, to kickstart our conversation, using your personal experience as someone who is passionate about mental health, can you tell us what is self-esteem and how one acquires self-esteem? Is it something that we are born with or something we acquire along the way in life?
Okay, thank you, Nancy, for your question, and actually just thank you for having me on the Yellow Cow session. I'm really passionate about this topic, so I'm so happy and so excited to be here. But to get straight to it, what is self-esteem? So, as the word states, self-esteem is like, what is your self-estimate, or rather, how do you rate yourself? What are your opinions about yourself? So it's something that no one else can really give to you. It is something that only you can give for yourself in terms of how do you, what is your image of yourself? You can either have a very high opinion of yourself, or you can also have a very low opinion of yourself. Like at the end of the day, it all depends on you. And then you asked, how does one acquire self-esteem? Is it something that we're born with? Well, the way I see it is like you can acquire self-esteem in two ways. In one way, it's something that is out of your control, and the second way is something that is within your control. So let me address the first one. The first way we get our self-esteem is through our most primary caretakers, which are our parents. So if a child is raised in an environment where they receive lots of positive affirmation, they receive a lot of love, affection, and validation, that child is most likely going to grow up with a healthy sense of self-esteem. Because as a child, you're still helpless. You're still looking at the people around you in search for their identity. So the messages that they give to you are what you internalize and are what you end up considering as the opinions of yourself.
So they end up becoming the building blocks for your own self-esteem.
Exactly. So that is when you're a child. So that is something that is not within our control. You know, we can't determine who our parents are, who our caretakers are, and how they are.
The environment we were born in.
Exactly. But then as we grow older now, that is where having either a healthy self-esteem or a low self-esteem is all within our grasp. So as an adult, you yourself can really practice self-awareness and reflect on some issues, and then you will kind of know, based on your experiences and certain patterns, you start, so after some time, you will discover whether you have low self-esteem or, average self-esteem, like most people. It's very hard to have a healthy self-esteem without genuine work on the inside. But yes, so mostly it's from our parents and initial caretakers, but also as adults, as we consciously take the time and effort to know ourselves better, understand ourselves better, and most importantly, accept ourselves as we are.
Okay, so what are these factors that you've spoken about when you're young? The environment and the parents or the caretakers are the ones responsible for your self-esteem. But as you grow older, can you help us understand what are these other factors that are, let's say, within your reach or within your control that can affect or have a direct effect on your self-esteem? Because I've come across a lot of matured, or rather, I would say older people yes. that are struggling in this area. And what are the indications? What things do we look at in a person, or what if I'm to evaluate myself, whether I have a good self-esteem or a healthy self-esteem, or if I have self-esteem at all? What are the factors, or what are the things that I should look out for within myself to determine, okay, you know what, this is the level I'm at in terms of self-esteem? Is it behavior patterns or things that I say? What are they?
Okay, that's a very good question that has like so many things in one, but I'll try my best to digest all of them. So let's start. What are the signs of a person with a healthy self-esteem? Because I think once we know that, then we can easily identify signs of the opposite. Yeah. So a person with a healthy self-esteem is very aware, self-aware. You cannot have a healthy self-esteem if you do not know who you are. And what does being self-aware entail? It entails knowing your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, and for your weaknesses, taking active measures to improve them. And not only that, but accepting yourself despite your weaknesses. So it's not a matter of perfection.
Yeah.
No, it's not a matter of perfection, but it's about knowing, you know what, I as Hilda, I as Nancy, these are my positive qualities, A, B, C. But at the same time, I'm kind of lacking in this, Maybe I'm too sensitive or too defensive or whatever it is that may be. And then how do you decide to work on that? So being self-aware is key. But also, a person with a healthy self-esteem knows that they have value. Because the most important thing about self-esteem is you yourself in your mind knowing that I have value. Regardless of what everyone else around you may be telling you, it's something that you tell to yourself. Because if you do not know your value, for example, you may have the value of a Lamborghini, but you will easily accept the price of around 4 because you do not know what you have. So a person with a healthy self-esteem knows what value they have and knows what they bring to the table.
But how do they get to determine this value? Is it out of, let's say, the social status they have, or what do they look at?
Okay, so that value does not come from success. It does not come from social status or any of those superficial things, because like you said, we've seen a lot of older people, I've seen a lot of successful people, and people of very prominent status that you would think have very, healthy self-esteem, but that's not true. That's just the persona that they have on the outside. In a sense, like, I don't know how to use this example without being inappropriate.
Yes.
But you can have someone that hasn't gone to school, is not that educated, is not doing so well in life, but from a Swahili.
True.
You may try to tell them, do this, do that, and you think that just because of their low status that they would readily accept that, but they don't. And the thing that makes them not accept is not something that they've been told. It's something that they just feel like, I deserve better than this. This is not how I should be treated, you understand?
Yeah.
And it's not something that school can teach you or anyone can teach you. It's just something that you have to experience. As opposed to, you may find someone that is very educated, but you'd be surprised that they tolerate very bad treatment, and you're asking yourself. Why? Don't they know their value? So it's not about success or status or all these superficial things. It's your internal conversation and what you say and think about yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How is, from what you've said right now, I've gathered that self-esteem is very much related to something I would call self-respect.
Oh yeah. It's not only self-respect but self-worth.
Self-worth. That's
Yes.
the word I was looking for.
Self-worth, because when you know your worth, when you know your value, you'll respect yourself and you'll demand that others do the same. So it's all about knowing that internal value, that even if I get fired from my job today, or I'm not as wealthy, or I'm not as, famous, I still have value. And that value dictates that I be treated a certain way. I deserve certain things. I have the right to explore, certain things. We'll get into that later. But it's just something on the inside. And the good thing, since it's self-esteem and you can give to yourself, it is absolutely free.
How do I get
It's
to
so
that
difficult
point?
to
It
get.
is. That's
It's so
what I'm saying.
difficult
How
to
do
get.
you get to that point?
Yes.
Because I feel like where most of us struggle, we do know that we deserve better. We do know that this is not what I want to settle for.
Yes.
But how do I gather that courage? Or what do I do?
Okay, so for that, I think I'll just have to base on my own personal experience, because it is something growing up I struggled with. But what made me realize after some time that I didn't have a healthy sense of self-esteem was I kept seeing a repetitive pattern in the types of people that I would attract into my life, friendships, whether it's friendships at work, whatever. You keep seeing that you're going to different places, but people are still treating you in almost the same way, even though it's a bit different, but it didn't feel good. That's number one. And another sign that can show you that red flag, you need to work on something, is when you're very self-critical and you take things so personally. Like, let's say we have this yellow card session, and for some reason, I hope not, but someone on the comment says, you know what, that session sucks. Like, it happens. And of course, as a human being, like, we like putting our best foot forward, and we like, people to approve of what we're doing. So, for a while, you feel like, okay. But someone with really low self-esteem, that will affect them in a totally different way. They'll think about it now, later, when they go home, tomorrow, because their sense of validation comes from the outside. So they're thinking, oh my God, if someone else said that, then it must be true. It's not true. Someone can just be a hater,
Yeah.
Or even if it was bad, but there's that thing like, okay, but it'll be better next time.
Yes.
You don't take it too heavy. So another sign to watch out for is self-criticism, or extreme self-criticism, if I may say.
Yeah.
And then another thing is people with low self-esteem, or when you know that you need to work on your self-esteem, is when you have what I call selective amnesia. What do I mean? People with very low self-esteem seem to remember all the bad things they've done, or all the things they've failed at, but are so quick to forget all the good, or all the little things they've achieved. So it's like, for some reason, their mind is able to store all the negatives, but when it comes to the positives, they're celebrated for a little while, then poof, out the window, it's gone. So as a result, they're just stuck with the negatives, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let me take you back a little bit. When we were talking about the external factors that could affect self-esteem, or could cause or make someone have a low self-esteem or a healthy self-esteem, what are these, maybe looking at our current world today, the world we live in, so much information, and it feels like everyone is closed now, so it's easy for people to know what you're doing or what you're up to, and easily give you feedback. So what are the things to watch out for in our day-to-day lives as we navigate through, social media and stuff? Like, what are the things should we look out for that pose as a direct threat to our self-esteem, because someone might have a very healthy self-esteem, it's blooming, and then boom, something happens. Yeah, what are the things to watch out for in our immediate surroundings?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question. So, one of the things that affects our self-esteem, for example, is the people around us. And by the people around us, I mean when you've experienced something like bullying, either as a child or as an adult, even in the workplace, that is bound to affect your self-esteem. And so with bullying, they're bullies, which means that you're surrounded by toxic people. Or sometimes these people may be toxic towards you, but they're not toxic to everyone else. So sometimes it's also a matter of compatibility. You have to, that's why I'm saying self-awareness. You have to know your temperament and your nature. Like, okay, I'm somehow a sensitive person, so I wouldn't really do well with someone who has a lot of dark, honest humor, for example. Like for some reason, so for some other people they can take it. But for you, if you know that you can't, try your best to avoid it if you can. Yeah, it's true, because the people around you do affect how you feel, especially when you've not yet built a strong sense of self. And then social media as well. Social media is where people receive so much validation, so much approval, but also
Likes
so much
and shares.
But it can also be very emotionally draining and hurtful for your self-esteem. So you have in your power the things that you choose to share. Sometimes if you're not there yet, turn off that comments option. Like, no, seriously, if you're not in a space to receive feedback about something, it's okay. You have the right to turn off the comments or whatever, so that people don't write whatever they feel like. Or you don't have to post every time. It's okay to disappear and let people miss you for a while.
True.
At the same time, it's also okay to post as frequently as you want if that is what you want to do at the time.
And as long as you know how to handle the feedback. And
if you're psychologically prepared. I always see these Instagram videos of someone who went live, it starts out all good, and then all of a sudden things go south, and then they start crying. It's just so sad. But the point is that psychological preparation, or not being mature enough to know this is what I can handle, this I can't handle. I get along with this type of person, I don't get along with this type of person. I'm an introvert, I don't like socializing much. When I'm an extrovert, I feel comfortable in social settings. So once you're self-aware, you really know how to navigate these other external factors, because you know what makes you vulnerable and you know what you can handle.
Nice. Let's now look at the aspect of the workplace. We get off the society, you're now a part of a company organization, and do you think that organizations, because there is a person, let's say the HR, who is responsible to look after the well-being of everyone in the company, but do you think that organization, or is it their responsibility, like these organizations, to put in place measures or certain structures in place to safeguard different people and make sure that everyone is able to let's say, to fully express themselves or build that healthy self-esteem, because we know how it can get in workplaces. Do you think it's up to them, or organizations should make that extra effort, or what's your take on that?
In regards to should they, I would like to say yes, because in an ideal world, we like to think that the Human Resource Office really takes care of its employees and gives priority to their mental health. At least I'm hoping that that's where we're heading to as a society.
True.
But realistically, that's not how it actually is.
We've heard cases where, for example, just to cut you short, of when I've read on social media certain employees taking their own lives, unfortunately, because of the pressure they're receiving from work. And probably this person was perfectly fine before entering that work environment, but because of the pressure, and as much as it's this person's respective responsibility to take care of themselves and the be mentally prepared. But yeah, just to give an example that even these organizations do present certain scenarios or environments that could be harmful to this person's self-esteem and mental health in general.
Yeah. So you've brought up a very good point, and maybe I can just point out that what are the things that may impact someone's sense of self-esteem in the workplace? First thing is, of course, and you'll never miss them in any office, there'll always be individuals that you do not really get along with in terms of compatibility. And then there are always people that are just special and like to make everyone else's life miserable, as in it's life. You know, you can't avoid such people. So on one hand, there are, those type of people, but also another part, I always come back to self-awareness. When you're applying for a certain job, it's not just about the academic qualifications. You know, in the CV, people can work well under pressure. Can you? Can you? Now
it's a very commonly used phrase.
Under pressure, can you? In the sense, it's good to explore. It's good to try out different opportunities.
Is it okay to say, for example, sorry again to cut you short, is it okay to say that I cannot work under pressure? Do you think?
No, don't mention it. Don't mention it.
Don't mention pressure at all.
Don't mention pressure at all.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is, even when you're looking for a job, you should, if you know yourself well, you'll be able to know what type of environment you can handle. And sometimes, okay, you don't know how the place will be until you get there. That's fine. But after a few months, you're able to see the dynamics in the workplace, and you're able to know if that is the place for you. So I said the first part that impacts self-esteem in the workplace are the people around you. The second part is for you being self-aware in the first place to apply for a job that you, at least on a minimum level, can handle. So there are those two components. And then you asked about whether the HR office should be responsible. Look, I hate to say it, but realistically, the HR office has a lot on its plate, and they're looking at serious issues like, harassment and maybe pay and all these things. Should they listen to your mental health concerns and everything that's going on? Definitely. But what do you do when they can't? So you have to develop your own system of making sure that you're very productive in the workplace. And at least you try to minimize the, mental health struggles and the strain that it has on your self-esteem.
That's very well said. Well, I hope there are questions out there.
Sorry, just to cut you off.
Yes.
Just to finish on that, how can you do that at the workplace? So the first thing is journal your little accomplishments, no matter how small. If you've done something well on Monday, write it down, because as you have it on record, you get to realize, oh, I'm actually contributing something to this place, and it will help boost your self-esteem.
Sure.
Another thing is, again, be self-aware and find out what are you really good at. So it can just be one thing or two things, but be really good at them to the point that when someone is looking for a certain service, you're the person they go for. So you've created a sense of value in yourself where people around you depend on you for something. That also
and I would add,
really helps.
If you're struggling as well in an area, it's okay to say I need help, because then you're going to create unnecessary pressure on yourself over something that you cannot do, you cannot deliver as it's required. So just reach out, say I need help here, I'm struggling. And that way you're making even the work easier for them to take care of you.
Yeah, and just finally, set little goals for yourself. Like if you have very low self-esteem and you're very timid, you can say, okay, this week my challenge is to ask a question in a meeting. No one has to know about it, but if you're able to do that, tick. You go a bit further next time. I'm going to make a suggestion at a meeting. Tick. So you keep on building these milestones, and with each little goal that you can achieve, you start feeling more confident about yourself and have a healthier self-esteem.
Nice. All right, I would love to take some questions from our audience.
Where does low self-esteem come from?
Some dark places.
Like I said, low self-esteem generally, whether high or low, I said initially that it first comes off from the people around us, like our parents or caregivers in school and stuff like that. So if you had a negative experience growing up, if you didn't receive that affirmation or you didn't receive validation, or if you were bullied as a child, you start having low self-esteem. And as you grow older and you don't identify that about yourself, that negative talk will influence how you see yourself, and you see yourself in a low value manner. So it's all dependent upon these factors.
What tactical things can someone do to increase their self-esteem?
Yes. Okay.
Generally,
Because I would like us to talk about healthy self-esteem first, and then we'll talk of ways to.
okay, so what should I answer first?
Is there another question? Just hold it, and then after we're done, is there another one? No question. One more question. Okay. So, all right. Let's wind back a little bit. I feel like we've talked a lot about negative self-esteem and the low self-esteem. Let's now look at the positive one, the healthy self-esteem. What are the signs of a healthy self-esteem, and how to enhance it to continue fostering that positive self-esteem?
Okay, so signs of a healthy self-esteem. First of all, number one, they believe they have value. That's number one. You must believe that you have value. Number two, they're not afraid of making mistakes. You know, they're not afraid to try out new things or projects, whatever it is, because since they're not affected by what other people think of them, they're not afraid of making as many trials and errors until they succeed in something, whatever it is that they want to do. And then also, they accept their weaknesses. Like, they know what their weaknesses are. So it's as if someone else can't use their weaknesses against them, because guess what? I beat you to it. I already know that I have this problem and I'm working towards it. So accept this. Yeah, so I'll be saying knowing your value, accepting your weaknesses and trying to improve them. And what did I say again? I forgot. But that's second one.
Yes. Okay. So let's listen to that question. Yeah.
What tactical things can someone do to increase their self-esteem?
So increasing your self-esteem, to be honest, is not an easy process. I don't want to sit here and say, just do this affirmations. No, I mean, you can do that, but you must first of all understand that it's going to take time, and you need to be very patient with yourself, because you may say that from now on I'm going to try to have a better self-esteem, and then you lapse back and you find yourself being very self-critical. So that shouldn't bother you. Just understand that it takes time. But I'll just say, keep telling yourself and reminding yourself that you do have value, and monitor your self-talk. So now that you know, okay, I want to work towards having a healthier self-esteem, monitor the dialogue within your head, so that every time you start having negative thoughts, you're like, oh, I'm doing that again. Oh, I'm doing that again. So that way you take notice. And then also, yeah, those affirmations help. Like, they really do. In the sense, sometimes I tell myself, like, I am a writer, I am a good writer, I am a good writer. Even if I don't really have anything to write, but just telling myself that until I feel like I believe it, I actually end up doing something. And then telling yourself that it's not always personal. There are times when someone does something, yes, it's personal, and you should do something about that. But most of the time, people are too concerned with their own problems. It's not. So if you tell yourself, look, it's not personal. I'm still valuable. I'm still good at this. You're doing your affirmations with time. You know, it takes time, months, even. You'll slowly start getting to a better place.
And just to add on that, I actually also feel like when someone is being rude to you, or you feel like this is not personal, and you feel like this is rude, actually what you should think to talk yourself out of that is say that this is actually not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of them and who they really are.
Yeah.
So some people can just be rude, that's who they are, that's how they are, and you cannot do anything to change them. So just say, okay, this is, yes, you've probably crossed the line, but this is just, it's a reflection of them. So you still maintain to protect yourself and your self-esteem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
Yeah.
Having boundaries, because if you start realizing that certain people are causing you chaos, start putting boundaries and not giving everyone access to you.
All right, let's look at self-esteem versus self-love. What are these? How do you differentiate the two, and how does it not become harmful? Because it somehow sounds like selfishness if overly practiced.
Okay.
Yes, take us through that one.
Yeah, so you've asked two questions within one. The first question is, what is the difference between self-esteem versus self-love? And then the second question is there such a thing as too high
self-esteem or self-love that goes to selfishness?
So the self-esteem and self-love are closely linked, but what I would say about self-love is that having a sense of compassion for yourself, like not being too hard on yourself. Like, yes, you have your strengths, but even with your weaknesses, you still, have compassion for yourself still. In the sense, sometimes we're so willing to forgive someone else for their mistakes or be more understanding when they do something wrong, yet we're so harsh and critical over ourselves. That's not self-love. Self-love is, okay, I messed up. Like, the same advice you tell a close friend or a family member is the same advice you give to yourself. Okay, it didn't work out that way, but I'll do better next time. Just being accepting and compassionate about yourself. That is self-love. Whereas self-esteem is more of, how do I see myself? Do I see myself as, a person that's high up there or low? So self-esteem is more about image and opinion, and self-love is more about compassion and acceptance.
Can you have self-love and low self-esteem?
Not really. It doesn't work that way. And then the second question is there such a thing as too high sense of self-love or self-esteem?
Yeah.
Well, there are times when people have a grandiose sense of self-esteem, which borders into something called narcissism. But that is not real self-esteem. Usually such people act, on the outside they may look as if they have high self-esteem, but on the inside they are very fragile.
Yes.
Because they appear very confident on the outside, but the moment you poke at them and just criticize them even a little bit,
they burst.
They panic, they get so angry. So that is a sign of like, okay, it's almost a false sense of self-esteem when it's too high, to the point you start looking down on everyone else around you. So I wouldn't say there's too high self-esteem. I would say when it's that high, it's a false sense of self-esteem. That's grandiose and starts to look down on others, and that's
so anything too much becomes harmful.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
No matter how positive it is, if you're too high on self-esteem, it becomes terrible for you as well. All right. We have questions? Yes.
What can I do to improve my performance at work if I have low self-esteem?
Okay, I think I covered that a bit earlier, but I'll just reiterate. So I said the first thing is making a list of the things that you're good at or the things that you feel you bring to the table at work. It can be really small, but first of all, recognize these things, because when you're having low self-esteem at work, it's because you feel like you don't have any value, you don't contribute anything, which is not true. They're paying you do something. Yeah. So first, put it down on paper and see for yourself, I'm actually good at this. This is what I bring to the table, so know that. And then you can also try to do your best in that little thing that you can do, that you can stand out. Like even if you sweep, even if you open your windows, whatever, do that thing really well, so that people know that, this person.
And that you're able to also say, I did a great job, honestly, and not just for the sake of it.
And then I said just put little challenges or goals for yourself. Like, okay, I'm here right now, but I'm going to try next time to do this, to do that, and just be patient with yourself as you're going along that journey.
All right, I think we're winding up this session. Now, as we wind up, let's look at how self-esteem generally has an impact. So for someone that, let's just wrap it up together, like general impact or influence self-esteem has on our lives.
Oh yeah, by the way, it's good that we're ending on that note because it's very important. Like, your self-esteem determines each and every aspect of your life. If you have a low self-esteem, it determines the type of jobs you go for. If you think I cannot deserve this job, you won't apply for it. If you think I do not deserve this amount of money, you will not ask for a raise. If you think I better just stay in this toxic work environment because I won't get accepted elsewhere, you're going to stay there. So that is the impact of low self-esteem, even in your personal life. Oh, I can't do any better than this guy or this girl, so you keep tolerating that. And on the flip side, if you have a healthy self-esteem, I want to try that. If I fail, doesn't matter as long as I've tried. No, this person is stepping on my toes. I'm not putting up with this.
Yeah.
Or, so it sets the tone for the decisions that you're going to make and the quality of life that you live.
That's a very good ending note. Is generally, so all in all, I would say low self-esteem affects negatively your productivity. And having a healthy self-esteem, and if you can practice the ways that Hilda has,
which we can, by the way,
they're not easy.
I'm also learning, so if we can all,
no one's perfect.
Try, exactly.
There's no such a thing as
fluctuates.
Exactly.
There are times you feel good, there are times so it's all
you keep yourself in balance.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you very much for joining us in this session. I believe you had a lot to take, to learn. Self-esteem is a very, I would say, it's less talked about. It's not talked about it's not something you hear often, but it covers a very large part of our lives, our decisions, and the quality of, the kind of life that we're living. So I think we've helped you to rethink your thoughts, and you'll now be able to look at yourself and evaluate and say whether I have a healthy or a low self-esteem, and what do I need to do, or at least where should I start in order to improve on the areas where you lack. Hilda, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Anything more you'd like to add before we close?
Girl, nah. It was such a nice session. I think we left it on a
Would you like to talk about your movement just briefly?
Yes. Thank you. So, guys, I'm a mover on our website, and I have my series called the Stigma Free Zone. And on that series, I write articles about mental health issues that are prevalent within the Tanzanian society that we rarely talk about, such as quarter life crisis, or the problems that men face concerning mental health, or imposter syndrome. It covers issues like self-esteem, and so many other fun things like technology and modern fidelity. Like, you don't want to miss it. So please follow my series and stay tuned. And
Nice. And continue following our pages on social media. Visit our website. There's a lot you can learn, a lot to you can build on. And we're always here to help you. So until next time, this was Yellow Card Chat signing out.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.